The black car pulled up in front of the tall building on Fifth Avenue. Marcus Wellington stepped out, loosening his tie. He was tired. The business trip to Tokyo had lasted 5 days, and every meeting had been difficult. His neck hurt from the long flight, and all he wanted was to go to his apartment, pour himself a drink, and sit in silence. Marcus was 58 years old. With gray hair at his temples and expensive clothes that fit perfectly, he had built his technology company from nothing, and now he was worth over $3 billion. People respected him. People feared him. But right now he just felt old and exhausted. The doorman greeted him with a smile. "Welcome back, Mr. Wellington." Marcus nodded without really looking at him. He walked through the marble lobby to the private elevator that went straight to his penthouse. The ride-up was quiet. He closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. When the elevator doors opened, he stepped into his home. The penthouse covered the entire top floor of the building. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the Manhattan skyline. Everything inside was white, black, or silver. Modern art hung on the walls, pieces that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Marcus had bought them because his interior designer said they were important. He dropped his briefcase on the entrance table and walked toward the living room. That was when he heard voices coming from the kitchen area. Dorothy Thompson was there, his housekeeper. She had worked for him for almost 12 years. Dorothy was a woman in her early 40s, always neat and professional. She wore her usual uniform and had her hair pulled back. But today, something was different. There was someone else with her. A teenage girl sat at the small table in the staff room, which was just off the kitchen. The girl had her head down, focused on a notebook. She wore jeans and a purple hoodie, and her curly hair was pulled into a ponytail. Marcus stopped. Dorothy never brought anyone to work. Never. Dorothy saw him and immediately stood straighter. "Mr. Wellington, I didn't expect you back until tomorrow." "Welcome home. Who is that?" Marcus pointed toward the girl. Dorothy's face showed a flash of worry. "That's my daughter, Jasmine." "I'm so sorry, sir. Her school had a heating problem, so they closed for the day. I had no one to watch her, and I couldn't miss work. I promise she won't be any trouble. She's just doing her homework, and we'll be out of here in 20 minutes. Marcus looked at the girl again. She had glanced up when she heard her name, but quickly looked back down at her notebook. She seemed nervous, trying to make herself smaller. "How old is she?" Marcus asked. 16, sir," Marcus grunted. He walked past them toward his bar, where he kept his expensive whiskey collection. He poured himself 3 fingers of Japanese whiskey, the kind that cost $800 a bottle. The first sip burned going down, but the second one felt better. Dorothy had gone back to organizing his mail, sorting it into neat piles. Bills, invitations, business correspondence. She worked quietly, efficiently, the way she always did. The girl, Jasmine, remained still at her table, her pen moving across the paper. Marcus settled into his favorite leather chair in the living room. From here he could see the entire space. His eyes drifted to the far corner, near the windows where his piano sat. It was a Steinway Model D concert grand piano, black and gleaming. He had paid $2.3 million for it at an auction 3 years ago. The piano had once belonged to a famous composer. Marcus didn't remember which one. He had bought it because his wealth manager suggested he invest in valuable instruments, and because it looked impressive when he hosted parties. Marcus had never played it. Not once. He had taken piano lessons as a child, but quit after 6 months. He found it boring. Now the piano just sat there, perfectly tuned by a professional who came once a month, never touched, just existing as another expensive piece of furniture. The whiskey was making him feel warmer, looser. His third glass went down easier than the first 2. He looked at Dorothy's daughter again. The girl was so focused on her homework, biting her bottom lip as she worked through some problem. An idea formed in Marcus's mind. It wasn't a kind idea. It was the kind of idea that comes when someone is bored and a little drunk and wants to be entertained. "Dorothy!" he called out. She appeared immediately. "Yes, sir." "Does your daughter play piano?" Dorothy looked confused. "Sir? The piano. Does she play?" He gestured toward the Steinway with his glass. "Oh, no, sir. We don't have a piano." Marcus smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. "Well, that thing over there costs more than most houses, and no one ever plays it. It would be amusing to actually hear someone use it for once. Why doesn't she give it a try?" Dorothy's face showed alarm. "Oh no, Mr. Wellington, that's very kind, but we couldn't possibly. Jasmine doesn't know how to play, and that's such an expensive instrument. We shouldn't even touch it. I insist." Marcus took another sip. "Come on, it'll be fun. Let the girl bang on the keys a little. What's the harm? I'm curious to see if she can even play chopsticks." There was something mean in his tone, something that made this less of an offer and more of a command. Dorothy heard it. She had worked for wealthy people long enough to know when she was being tested, when saying no might cause problems. "Really, sir? I don't think—" "Dorothy." Marcus's voice got firmer. "I'm asking you to have your daughter play my piano. It's just for fun. What's the problem?" The room felt tense. Jasmine had looked up now, her eyes wide. She could feel what was happening even if she didn't fully understand it. Dorothy's hands clasped together. Marcus could see her thinking, calculating. She needed this job. She was a single mother. She had bills to pay, and here was her employer, slightly drunk, asking something that seemed harmless on the surface but felt wrong underneath. "Of course, Mr. Wellington," Dorothy finally said, her voice quiet. "If that's what you'd like." She walked over to Jasmine and spoke softly. Marcus couldn't hear the words, but he saw the girl shake her head. Dorothy said something else, more insistent. Jasmine looked scared, but she stood up slowly, putting down her pen. Marcus leaned back in his chair, swirling his whiskey. This would be entertaining. The girl probably couldn't play at all. She'd press a few keys, make some noise, and he'd have his laugh. Then Dorothy would finish her work, and they'd leave. Jasmine walked toward the piano like she was walking toward an execution. Her steps were small and careful. She kept her arms close to her body. When she reached the piano bench, she stood there for a moment, not sitting down. "Go ahead," Marcus said, waving his hand. "Sit down. It won't bite." Dorothy stood near the kitchen, her hands pressed together so hard that her knuckles turned pale. Her face showed worry and something else. Embarrassment, maybe, or anger that she couldn't express. Jasmine sat down on the bench. She was small for 16, and the concert grand piano seemed enormous next to her. She looked at the keys like they were precious and fragile. "Well," Marcus said, "play something. Anything. I'm sure you must know something from school. Mary had a little lamb, perhaps." There was mockery in his voice. He was enjoying this now, enjoying the discomfort, enjoying the power of making people do what he wanted. Jasmine's hands were shaking. She placed them on the keys, her fingers finding positions that Marcus didn't quite understand. Her posture changed slightly. Her back straightened. She sat there for 3 long seconds perfectly still. Then she began to play. The first notes were soft, gentle, but they weren't simple. They weren't "Mary had a little lamb" or chopsticks. Marcus sat forward in his chair, his glass stopping halfway to his mouth. The music grew louder, more complex. Jasmine's fingers moved across the keys with speed and precision. Her whole body moved with the music, swaying slightly. Her face no longer showing fear, but concentration and something that looked like joy. Marcus didn't know classical music well, but he knew enough to recognize that this wasn't beginner playing. This wasn't even intermediate playing. This was something else entirely. The melody was beautiful and complicated. It had moments of softness and moments of power. Jasmine's hands crossed over each other, reaching for keys on opposite ends of the piano. The music filled the entire penthouse, echoing off the high ceilings. Marcus's mouth was open. He had completely forgotten about his whiskey. Dorothy's expression had changed too. The worry was gone, replaced by pride. She stood taller, watching her daughter play. The music continued, building to something bigger. It was passionate and technical at the same time. Jasmine's eyes were closed now. She wasn't looking at the keys. She was feeling them, knowing exactly where her fingers needed to go. Marcus realized his heart was beating faster. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just surprise. It was awe. This girl, this 16-year-old daughter of his housekeeper, was playing his $2.3 million piano better than any professional he had ever heard in person, and she was doing it from memory, without any sheet music in front of her. The piece went on for several more minutes. Every note was perfect. Every transition was smooth. When Jasmine finally played the last notes, letting them ring out and fade into silence, the entire penthouse seemed to hold its breath. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Jasmine opened her eyes slowly. She looked down at her hands on the keys and then she looked at her mother. Dorothy had tears on her cheeks. Marcus set his glass down on the table with a shaking hand. He didn't trust himself to speak yet. "I'm sorry," Jasmine said quietly. "I know I shouldn't have touched it. It's so expensive and What did you just play?" Marcus interrupted her. His voice came out rougher than he intended. Jasmine looked at him, still scared. "Rachmaninoff. Piano Concerto No. 3. Just the first movement. I couldn't remember all of it." "Couldn't remember all of it," Marcus repeated, almost laughing at the absurdity. "Where did you learn to play like that?" "YouTube mostly," Jasmine said. "And there's a community center near where we live. They have an old keyboard. Some of the keys don't work, but I practice there when they let me." "YouTube?" Marcus stood up from his chair. "You taught yourself to play Rachmaninoff from YouTube videos?" Jasmine nodded, looking down. "I'm sorry. I know it probably wasn't very good." "Not very good?" Marcus walked closer to the piano. That was incredible." Dorothy spoke up, her voice protective. "Jasmine has always loved music. Ever since she was little. She picks up everything so quickly. I've tried to get her into music programs, but they all cost money we don't have." Marcus looked at Dorothy, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in 12 years. He saw a mother who was proud and scared at the same time. A woman who had been cleaning his home, organizing his life, staying invisible while raising a daughter with extraordinary talent. The front door of the penthouse opened. Marcus had forgotten he had guests coming over. Richard Chen walked in, followed by 3 other people. They were business associates invited for drinks and dinner. "Marcus," Richard called out. "Your doorman let us up. I hope that's—" He stopped when he saw the scene. A teenage girl at the piano. Dorothy standing there in her uniform. Marcus looking stunned. "Did we interrupt something?" Richard asked, confused. Marcus didn't know what to say. His mind was still processing what he had just witnessed. "I heard music in the elevator," said Sarah Martinez, one of the other guests. "It was beautiful." "Was that a recording?" "No," Marcus said slowly. That was Dorothy's daughter, Jasmine." The 4 guests looked at Jasmine with interest. "Play something else," Richard said to Jasmine. He walked closer to the piano. Richard Chen was on the board of directors at Juilliard. He knew music. "Please, I'd love to hear more." Jasmine looked at her mother, panicked. "Oh, we should really go," Dorothy said quickly. "I'm sorry for the disruption." "Jasmine, get your things." "Wait," Richard said, holding up his hand. "I'm serious. If that was you playing just now, you have real talent. I'd like to hear more." The other guests murmured in agreement. They settled into chairs, watching Jasmine with curiosity. Jasmine looked trapped, but she also looked like she wanted to play. Marcus could see it in her eyes, the way they drifted back to the piano keys. "Play," Marcus said. It wasn't a command this time. It was different. "Please." Jasmine's hands returned to the keys. This time she played something different, something softer and sadder. Marcus didn't know what it was, but it made him think of rain and loneliness and beauty all at once. The guests sat in complete silence, listening. Sarah had her hand over her mouth. Richard leaned forward, his eyes sharp and focused. When Jasmine finished, Richard stood up and started clapping. The others joined him. The sound of applause filled the penthouse. Jasmine looked overwhelmed. She stood up from the bench quickly, nearly tripping. "That was Chopin," Richard said. "Nocturne in C-sharp minor, and you played it beautifully." He turned to Marcus. "Where does she study?" "She doesn't," Marcus admitted. "She's self-taught." Richard's eyebrows went up. "Self-taught? That's impossible. No one plays like that without formal training." "I practice a lot," Jasmine said quietly. "I watch videos and I practice." Richard looked at Dorothy. "Has she auditioned for any schools?" "Juilliard, Curtis? Manhattan School of Music?" Dorothy shook her head. "Those applications cost money. The audition fees alone are hundreds of dollars. And she'd need recommendations from music teachers, recordings, all kinds of things we can't afford." The room got quiet. The wealthy guests looked uncomfortable, confronted with a reality they rarely saw up close. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. Guilt, maybe, or shame. He had been ready to mock this girl, to laugh at her for his own entertainment. And instead, she had shown him something extraordinary, something pure. "I'll pay for it," Marcus heard himself say. The words came out before he could think about them. I'll make sure she gets into the best music school in the country, whatever it costs." Everyone turned to look at him. Jasmine's eyes went wide. Dorothy's mouth opened in shock. "Marcus," Richard said carefully, "that's very generous, but do you understand what you're committing to? Schools like Juilliard cost $60,000 a year, sometimes more, and that's just tuition. There's housing, instruments, books." "I said I'll pay for it," Marcus repeated, louder this time. He felt reckless, pushed by the whiskey and the music and the look on Jasmine's face. This girl has talent. Real talent. She shouldn't waste it because of money. The guests started talking at once, excited and surprised. Richard was already pulling out his phone, talking about making calls to admissions offices. Dorothy grabbed Jasmine's hand. She was crying now, really crying. "Mr. Wellington, I don't know what to say." Thank you so much." Marcus nodded, trying to look confident even though a small voice in his head was already asking what he had just done. Jasmine looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. It wasn't just gratitude. There was something else there. Hope, maybe, or disbelief. The evening continued with more music and more conversation. The guests were energized, talking about Jasmine's future, making plans. Marcus poured himself another drink and watched it all unfold. He had made a promise, in front of witnesses, important witnesses. And as the night went on and his head began to clear, Marcus started to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. Marcus woke up the next morning with a headache that felt like someone was hitting his skull with a hammer. Sunlight came through the windows too bright and too harsh. He groaned and rolled over, trying to remember the night before. Then it all came back to him. The piano, the girl, his promise. He sat up too fast and immediately regretted it. His mouth was dry and his head pounded harder. He had drunk too much whiskey. He always drank too much when he was jet-lagged and stressed. What had he been thinking? Promising to pay for some kid's music education? That could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for what? Because she could play piano well? Marcus got out of bed and walked to his bathroom. The marble floor was cold under his feet. He looked at himself in the mirror. His eyes were bloodshot and his hair stuck up in strange directions. He looked old. He took a long shower, letting the hot water beat down on his neck and shoulders. Maybe no one would remember. Maybe Richard and the others had been drinking too and would forget all about it. These things happened at parties all the time. People made promises they didn't keep. But even as he thought it, Marcus knew it wasn't true. Richard Chen wasn't the type to forget, and Marcus had made the promise in front of 4 witnesses. Important people. People who knew other important people. He got dressed in his usual clothes. Black pants, white shirt, no tie. His phone was already full of messages. 12 emails from Richard. 3 text messages. Even a voicemail. Marcus ignored them all. He needed coffee first. His private chef had already prepared breakfast. Marcus sat at his dining table looking out at the city below. From up here, everything looked small and manageable. From up here, he was in control, but he didn't feel in control right now. His phone rang. It was Richard. Marcus considered not answering, but that would only delay the inevitable. He picked up. "Marcus, I've been trying to reach you all morning." Richard sounded excited, energized. "I made some calls last night. You won't believe the response. Everyone wants to hear this girl play." Richard, about last night, "I spoke to the admissions director at Juilliard. She's willing to arrange a special audition next week." "Next week, Marcus? Do you know how rare that is? Usually people wait months." Marcus rubbed his forehead. "That's great, but..." "And I contacted a friend at Curtis Institute in Philadelphia. They're interested too. This could be really big, Marcus. You're changing a young person's life. It's inspiring. Marcus felt sick to his stomach, and it wasn't just the hangover. "I need to think about this," Marcus said. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Think about what?" "You made a promise, I know what I said. But I was drinking, Richard." "I wasn't thinking clearly." Another pause, longer this time. When Richard spoke again, his voice was colder. "So you're backing out?" "I'm not backing out. I just need time to figure out the details. The details are simple. The girl has talent. She needs training and opportunity. You have the money to provide both." "What's complicated about that?" Marcus didn't have a good answer. He said he would call Richard back later and hung up. He sat there for a long time, drinking his coffee, looking at the city. Part of him wanted to forget the whole thing. Part of him felt guilty for even considering it. His assistant called. There was a board meeting in an hour. Marcus had forgotten about it completely. The meeting was about the federal investigation into his company. 6 months ago, a whistleblower had accused the company of privacy violations. The government was looking into it. Marcus's lawyer said everything would be fine, but the investigation was taking longer than expected. The last thing he needed right now was more attention, more people looking at him and his life, more stories in the newspapers. If he went through with this piano thing, it would be news. Billionaire helps poor girl achieve her dreams. They would take pictures, write articles, ask questions about why he lived in luxury, while his housekeeper's daughter played on broken keyboards. Marcus finished his coffee and got ready for the meeting. He pushed thoughts of Jasmine and the piano out of his mind. He had bigger problems to deal with. The week passed quickly. Marcus threw himself into work, spending 14 hours a day at the office. He avoided Dorothy. On the days she came to clean, he made sure he wasn't home. Richard called twice more. Marcus didn't answer. Then, on Friday evening, everything changed. Marcus was at a restaurant with his lawyer discussing the investigation when his phone started buzzing. Text messages. Dozens of them. All at once, he looked at the screen. His daughter Elena had sent him a link with 3 question marks. Marcus clicked it. It was a video on social media. The title read, "Billionaire's maid's daughter plays piano like a professional, but will he actually help her?" Marcus felt his blood go cold. The video had been filmed at his penthouse. He could see his living room, his windows, his piano. And there was Jasmine playing. The video quality wasn't great. Someone had recorded it on their phone, but the music came through perfectly. Marcus scrolled down to read the caption. It said, "Marcus Wellington, tech billionaire worth $3 billion, promised to pay for this talented girl's music education after hearing her play at his penthouse. But sources say he's now trying to back out. This 16-year-old taught herself to play using YouTube videos because her family can't afford lessons. Is this how the rich treat people who actually have talent?" The video had been posted 3 hours ago. It already had 500,000 views. Marcus's lawyer looked at him. "What's wrong?" Marcus couldn't speak. He just handed over his phone. His lawyer watched the video, his face getting more serious. "Who posted this?" "I don't know." Marcus's voice came out as a whisper. "Was this at your home?" "Yes." "And did you promise to pay for her education?" "I was drunk. I wasn't thinking." His lawyer closed his eyes. "Marcus, this is bad. This is really bad. You're already under federal investigation. You don't need PR problems on top of that." The phone buzzed again. More messages, more notifications. The video was spreading. By the time Marcus got home, the video had 5 million views. News websites were picking up the story. Billionaire makes empty promise to talented teen. Rich man's cruelty exposed. Marcus Wellington's latest scandal. There were protesters in front of his building when he arrived. Not many, maybe 20 people, but they had signs. "Keep your promises. Black excellence matters. Stop using people." The doorman looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Mr. Wellington, they showed up about an hour ago. I called the police, but they're not doing anything illegal." Marcus went inside quickly, keeping his head down. In the elevator, he checked his phone again. The video now had 10 million views. 10 million? His PR team called. They were panicking. The company's stock had dropped 3% in the last 2 hours. Investors were nervous. The investigation was already making people worry, and now this. "You need to fix this," his PR director said. "Tonight. Right now. Make a statement. Commit to helping the girl. Do something. I'm not going to be blackmailed into—" "This isn't blackmail. This is damage control. You made a promise in front of witnesses. Someone recorded it. If you back out now, you look heartless. And with the investigation going on, you can't afford to look heartless." Marcus hung up. He poured himself a whiskey, his hands shaking. Who had posted the video? One of his guests, but why? What did they have to gain? His phone rang again. It was his ex-wife. "I saw the video," she said without saying hello. "Please tell me you're not actually backing out of helping that girl." "I don't want to discuss this." Of course you don't. You never want to discuss anything. That makes you look bad." His ex-wife's voice was sharp. "That girl has real talent, Marcus. Anyone can see that. And you promised to help her. Are you really going to break that promise? You don't understand the situation. I understand perfectly. You made a promise when you were drunk and showing off. Now you're embarrassed and want to pretend it never happened. That's exactly who you are. Marcus ended the call. He was breathing hard, his chest tight. More calls came. Friends, business partners, some supportive, most critical. The head of his charitable foundation called to say that donors were asking questions. The mayor's office called to distance themselves from him. A senator he had given money to suddenly didn't remember his name. The video kept spreading. 20 million views, 30 million. People were sharing it everywhere. Some comments supported him. Most didn't. This is disgusting. He has billions and won't help one talented kid. Typical rich person behavior. All promises, no action. That girl plays better than most professionals. She deserves every opportunity. He probably doesn't want a black girl succeeding. Racism at its finest. That last comment made Marcus angry. This wasn't about race. This was about... What was it about? He wasn't even sure anymore. His daughter Elena called. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Dad, her voice was quiet, controlled. We need to talk. Not now, Elena, I'm dealing with something. I know. I saw the video. Everyone saw the video. Elena was 32 years old. She lived in Boston and worked as a music teacher. They hadn't spoken in 8 months. The relationship had been broken for years, ever since Marcus had pushed her too hard as a teenager, demanding perfection in everything, especially her violin playing. What do you want? Marcus asked. I want to know if you're going to help her. It's complicated. No, it's not. You either keep your promise or you don't. It's actually very simple. You don't understand the pressure I'm under, the investigation, the company, everything. I understand that you made a promise to a 16-year-old girl who has more talent in her little finger than you have in your entire body. I understand that she trusted you, and now you're thinking about breaking that trust because it's inconvenient. Marcus was quiet. Elena continued. Do you know why I stopped playing violin, Dad? Really stopped, not just quit lessons? You said you wanted to do other things. I stopped because you made music into a weapon. You used my talent to show off to your friends. You pushed me so hard that I started to hate the thing I loved most. You turned something beautiful into something painful. And now you're doing the same thing to this girl. That's not fair. I'm not... You invited her to play your piano to entertain yourself. To show off. You didn't care about her talent. You just wanted amusement. And when she turned out to be extraordinary, you made a big promise in front of important people because it made you feel good. You felt generous. You felt like a hero, but you never stopped to think about what that promise meant to her. Marcus sat down hard in his chair. His daughter's words hit him like physical blows. I'm going to see her, Elena said. I'm going to meet Jasmine and her mother, and I'm going to help her with or without you. Because someone should, because talent like that deserves to be nurtured, not crushed. She hung up before Marcus could respond. He sat there in his penthouse, surrounded by expensive things, feeling more alone than he had in years. The protesters outside were chanting now. He could hear them even from the 42nd floor. Their voices drifted up, calling for justice, calling for him to do the right thing. His phone buzzed. Another call from Richard Chen. This time Marcus answered. Have you seen the video? Richard asked. Yes. It has 40 million views now. This is national news, Marcus. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, all of them are covering it. They're calling you a fraud, a liar. Some are calling you racist. I never said anything racist. It doesn't matter what you said. It's what you did, or didn't do. You made a promise to a talented young black girl, and then tried to back out. How do you think that looks? Marcus didn't answer. Richard's voice softened slightly. I know you. We've been friends for 15 years. You're not a bad person. You're just scared. You don't like attention you can't control. You don't like situations where you're not in charge. But you made a promise, Marcus. In my presence. In front of witnesses. You need to honor it. And if I don't, then your reputation is finished. Your company will suffer. The investigation will get worse because public opinion will turn completely against you. You'll be known as the billionaire, who crushed a young girl's dreams because he was too selfish to help. Is that what you want? Marcus closed his eyes. No. Then fix it tomorrow. Make a public statement. Commit to helping Jasmine. Show that you're a man who keeps his word. After the call ended, Marcus sat in the dark for a long time. The city lights sparkled below him. Millions of people living their lives, most of them struggling in ways he never had to struggle. He thought about Jasmine's face when she played his piano. The joy, the pure, uncomplicated love of music. He thought about his daughter, Elena, whose talent he had poisoned with his controlling nature. He thought about Dorothy working for him for 12 years, cleaning his home, organizing his life, always polite, always professional, never asking for anything. And he thought about himself, about who he was and who he had become. Around midnight, Marcus made a decision. He called his lawyer. "I need you to draft something," he said. "A formal commitment. I'm going to pay for Jasmine Thompson's music education. All of it. Tuition, housing, instruments, everything. I want it in writing. I want it public, and I want it done by tomorrow morning." His lawyer was quiet for a moment. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm going to do it anyway." "Okay, I'll have something ready by 8 a.m. Marcus hung up and walked to his piano. He stood there looking at it, this beautiful, expensive thing that he had bought to impress people that he had never appreciated. He sat down on the bench and put his fingers on the keys. He pressed one key. The note rang out clear and pure. He pressed another, and another. He tried to play something, anything, but his fingers didn't remember how. The sounds he made were clumsy and wrong, nothing like what Jasmine had played. But he kept trying. For the first time in 40 years, Marcus Wellington tried to play piano. And even though the sounds were terrible, even though he had no idea what he was doing, he felt something. Maybe it was the beginning of understanding. Maybe it was shame. Maybe it was just exhaustion. Outside, the protesters had gone home. The city was quiet, and Marcus sat at his piano, pressing keys in the dark, trying to find something he had lost a long time ago. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat at his desk, reading and rereading the legal document his lawyer had prepared. It was a formal commitment to fund Jasmine Thompson's music education. Everything was spelled out clearly. Tuition, room and board, private lessons, instruments, travel costs for auditions and performances. The total could reach $500,000 or more over 4 years. He signed it at 6 in the morning when the sun was just starting to come up over the city. His PR team released the statement at 8. Within an hour, news outlets picked it up. Marcus Wellington commits to funding teens' music education. Billionaire keeps promise after viral video. The response was mixed. Some people praised him. Others said he only did it because he got caught. They were right, and Marcus knew it. He hadn't done this from the goodness of his heart. He had done it because the alternative was worse. But as he read through the statement again, sitting in his office with his morning coffee, something felt wrong. The words looked right on paper, but they felt empty. He was doing what people expected, following the script his team had written, making himself look good again. Marcus called Dorothy's number. It rang 4 times before she answered. "Hello?" Her voice was cautious. "Dorothy, it's Marcus Wellington." There was silence on the other end. "I wanted to let you know that I've made a formal commitment. I'm going to pay for Jasmine's education, everything. It's all written down legally. My team is releasing the statement this morning." More silence. "Dorothy, are you there?" "Yes, Mr. Wellington, I'm here." "Well, what do you think?" Dorothy's voice came through carefully, each word chosen with precision. "I think it's very generous of you, sir." But there was something in her tone that bothered him. Something that didn't sound grateful or happy. "You don't sound pleased," Marcus said. "I am pleased, sir. Jasmine will have opportunities I never dreamed of giving her. But..." Dorothy was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "May I speak honestly, Mr. Wellington?" "Yes, please." "You didn't do this because you wanted to help my daughter. You did it because a video embarrassed you. You did it because people were angry at you. If that video had never been posted, we wouldn't be having this conversation. You would have forgotten about your promise, and Jasmine would have gone back to practicing on broken keyboards." Marcus felt his face get hot. "That's not entirely fair, isn't it?" He didn't have a good answer. Dorothy continued, her voice stronger now. "My daughter has worked so hard for so many years. She practices 4 hours a day on equipment that barely works. She watches videos until her eyes hurt, because we can't afford a teacher. She dreams about playing in concert halls and going to a real music school. And then you invite her to play your expensive piano like it's some kind of joke, like she's entertainment for your drunk evening." I apologized for that. "I was wrong. Yes, you were wrong. But you're still doing it, Mr. Wellington. You're still treating her like a charity case, like someone you can save to make yourself feel good. This commitment you signed, this public statement, it's all about you, about fixing your reputation. My daughter is just a tool for that. Marcus stood up from his desk, angry now. I'm offering to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for her education. How is that about me? Because you're doing it on your terms. Because you made it public before even talking to us. Because you didn't ask what we needed or wanted. You just decided? What else was I supposed to do? The whole world was watching. That's exactly my point, Dorothy said quietly. The whole world was watching you. Not her talent. Not her dreams. Just you and your reputation. Marcus wanted to argue, but the words died in his throat because she was right. Every single word was right. I'm sorry, he said finally. I'm sorry for all of it. I know you are. And I appreciate what you're trying to do. I really do. Jasmine will benefit from this, and I'm grateful for that. But I need you to understand something. My daughter is not a story you get to tell. She's not a project. She's a person with her own dreams and her own voice. I understand. I hope you do, Mr. Wellington. I really hope you do. She hung up. Marcus sat down slowly. His anger had drained away, replaced by something heavier. Shame, maybe, or the beginning of real understanding. He looked at the legal document on his desk, all those words about money and commitments, but nowhere did it say anything about Jasmine herself. Nowhere did it ask what she wanted or needed. His phone buzzed. Richard Chen had sent a message about Juilliard. They wanted to schedule Jasmine's audition for next week. They needed her to submit a video of her playing, along with letters of recommendation and a written application. Marcus forwarded the message to Dorothy without adding any comments. The next few days were strange. The news cycle moved on to other stories. The protesters went away. Marcus's stock price recovered. But something had changed inside him, something he couldn't quite name. He found himself thinking about Jasmine at odd moments, wondering how she was preparing for her audition, wondering if she was scared or excited, wondering if she still wanted his help or if his involvement had ruined everything. On Thursday, his assistant told him that Dorothy wanted to see him. She was waiting in the lobby. Marcus went down himself instead of having her come up. He found her standing near the windows looking out at the street. She wore a coat over her cleaning uniform. Dorothy, he said. Oh, what's wrong? Is Jasmine okay? She turned to face him. Her expression was serious. Jasmine submitted her application to Juilliard yesterday. They need 3 letters of recommendation from music teachers or professionals. Okay, that's good. She doesn't have any teachers, Mr. Wellington. She's never had formal lessons. She doesn't know any music professionals. Marcus understood the problem immediately. I see. I was hoping. I know you know people. Richard Chen is on the board. Maybe you could help with the letters? Of course. I'll make some calls. Dorothy nodded. Thank you. They stood there awkwardly for a moment. How is she doing? Marcus asked. With the audition coming up? She's nervous. More nervous than I've ever seen her. She keeps saying she's not ready, that she's going to embarrass herself. She won't. She's incredibly talented. Talent isn't always enough. Mr. Wellington, those schools want more than talent. They want training, polish, experience. They want students who already know the language of classical music. Jasmine taught herself from videos. She doesn't know any of that. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Are you saying she won't get in? I'm saying I don't know. And neither does she. And the not knowing is eating her alive. Dorothy looked tired. Not just physically tired, but soul tired. Like she had been carrying a heavy weight for too long. I've been cleaning houses for 23 years, she said quietly. I work 6 days a week. I take every extra shift I can get, and I still can't afford to give my daughter what she needs. Do you know what that feels like? Watching your child have this gift, this amazing gift, and knowing you can't help her develop it? No, Marcus said honestly. I don't know what that feels like. My husband left when Jasmine was 3, said he couldn't handle the responsibility, so it's just been us, me and her. And I've tried so hard to give her a good life. But I can't give her music lessons. I can't give her a piano. I can't give her the things that would let her talent grow. Marcus didn't know what to say.
He had never thought about these things before.
Money had always been there for him. First from his family, then from his own success. The idea of wanting something and not being able to afford it was foreign to him. When you offered to help, Dorothy continued, Jasmine cried for 2 hours. Happy tears. She thought her dreams were finally coming true. And then the video came out, and you went quiet and she thought it was all over. She thought you had been lying, making fun of her. I wasn't making fun of her. I know that now, but she didn't. She thought the rich man had played a cruel joke on the poor girl. It broke something in her, Mr. Wellington. She didn't play piano for 3 days, just sat in her room staring at the wall. Marcus felt sick. I'm telling you this because you need to understand what your actions mean. To you, this might be about money or reputation or fixing a PR problem. But to my daughter, this is everything. Her whole future, her whole life. I do understand that, I promise. Dorothy looked at him for a long time as if trying to decide whether to believe him. Finally, she nodded. I should go. I have another job in an hour. She walked toward the door. Dorothy, Marcus called after her. I'll help with the letters of recommendation. And if there's anything else Jasmine needs, anything at all, please let me know. Thank you, Mr. Wellington. She left. Marcus stood in the lobby alone, surrounded by marble and glass and wealth. He felt small. That evening, he made calls. He spoke to Richard about the letters. Richard agreed to write one himself and to ask 2 other Juilliard professors to write the others. Marcus also called a friend who owned a music store and arranged for a high-quality keyboard to be delivered to Dorothy's apartment. It felt like something, but not enough. Never enough. On Friday, Marcus received an email from his legal team. There was a problem with the federal investigation. New evidence had surfaced. The case was getting more complicated. His lawyers wanted to meet immediately. Marcus spent the entire weekend in conference rooms going through documents, preparing statements, trying to understand what was happening to his company. By Monday, he was exhausted and stressed. The investigation was becoming serious. There was a possibility of fines, maybe even criminal charges for some of his executives. The board was panicking. Investors were nervous. Marcus barely thought about Jasmine or Dorothy all week. He was too busy trying to save his company. Then on Thursday afternoon, his assistant told him Dorothy was on the phone. She sounded upset. Marcus took the call. Dorothy? What is it? It's Jasmine. She didn't get into Juilliard. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What? That's impossible. Richard said her audition was excellent. Her audition was excellent. Her playing was excellent. But they said she lacks the foundational training. They said she's too raw, too undisciplined. They recommended she study for another year and reapply. That's ridiculous. Did you hear her play? She's better than most of their students. I know. But they don't just want talent, Mr. Wellington. They want the right kind of talent. Trained talent. Polished talent. Dorothy's voice cracked. Talent that comes from money. What about the other schools? Curtis? Manhattan School of Music? She hasn't heard back yet. But if Juilliard said no... Marcus stood up from his desk, pacing. This is wrong. This is completely wrong. It's the way the world works. You of all people should know that. I'll call Richard. I'll make them reconsider. Please don't. Dorothy's voice was firm. Jasmine doesn't want to get in because of favors or pressure. She wants to get in because she deserves it. She does deserve it. Then let her prove it on her own. Marcus wanted to argue, but he heard the pride in Dorothy's voice. The determination. She was protecting her daughter's dignity, even if it meant rejection. What will she do now? Marcus asked quietly. I don't know. She's heartbroken. She barely speaks. She hasn't touched a piano since she got the rejection letter. After the call ended, Marcus sat at his desk for a long time. He thought about calling Richard anyway, about using his influence to force Juilliard to reconsider. He could do it. 1 phone call, maybe 2, and the decision would be reversed. But Dorothy's words echoed in his mind. She wants to get in because she deserves it. That night, Marcus couldn't focus on work. His lawyers were sending him documents to review, but he couldn't concentrate. He kept thinking about Jasmine, about how she must be feeling right now. He remembered his daughter Elena's words, about how he had crushed her love of music by making it into something painful. Was he doing the same thing to Jasmine? Trying to help but actually making everything worse? His phone rang. It was Elena. I heard about Juilliard, she said. I'm with Jasmine right now. You're with her? How? I drove down from Boston yesterday. I told you I was going to help her. Marcus was surprised. How is she? Devastated. But she'll be okay. She's strong. What are you doing there? Elena's voice was gentle. I'm teaching her. Real teaching. Not just telling her what to do, but helping her understand the theory behind the music, the structure, the history. All the things she missed by teaching herself. Will that help? Maybe, maybe not. But it's what she needs right now. She needs someone who believes in her without wanting anything in return. The implication was clear. Marcus was quiet. Dad, Elena said after a moment, I know you're trying to help. But sometimes help means stepping back. Sometimes it means letting other people be the heroes. I just want her to succeed. Why? Why do you care so much? It was a good question. Marcus thought about it. Because she reminds me of what I've lost. The ability to care about something purely, without calculating what I'll get out of it. When I heard her play, I felt something I haven't felt in years. Wonder. Elena was quiet for a moment. That's honest. I appreciate that. Will you keep helping her? Yes, as long as she wants my help. After they hung up, Marcus sat in his empty penthouse. The piano was still there, gleaming and perfect. He walked over to it and sat down. He tried to play again like he had that night weeks ago. His fingers were still clumsy, still unpracticed. The sounds were still wrong, but he kept trying, one note at a time, learning slowly what he had ignored his whole life. Maybe he couldn't fix everything. Maybe his money couldn't solve this problem. Maybe the best thing he could do was nothing at all. But he could learn. He could change. He could try to become someone who understood that some things are more valuable than wealth. It was a start. A small start, but a start. 3 weeks passed. Marcus threw himself into dealing with the federal investigation. His company was in serious trouble. The government had found evidence of data collection practices that violated privacy laws. His lawyers worked day and night preparing his defense. The stress was enormous. Marcus barely slept. He lost weight. His board of directors was talking about replacing him as CEO. Everything he had built over 30 years was falling apart. He tried to stay updated about Jasmine, asking Dorothy whenever she came to clean. The answers were always short. Jasmine was still taking lessons from Elena. She was practicing. She was applying to other schools. Marcus sent money. He paid for private lessons with other teachers that Elena recommended. He paid for new sheet music, recording equipment application fees. The money flowed out of his account easily, but it didn't make him feel better. Dorothy accepted the money with quiet thank yous, but there was still distance between them. Marcus understood why. Money was the easy part. Real change was harder. Then one Thursday morning in late November, everything exploded. Marcus was in his office when his assistant ran in without knocking. Her face was white. Mr. Wellington, you need to see this now. She showed him her phone. There was a new video going viral. The same person who had posted the first video about Jasmine had posted another one. But this video was different. It showed Marcus at a private dinner party from 2 years ago. Someone had recorded him on their phone. In the video, Marcus was drunk, laughing with his friends, making jokes about his staff. About Dorothy. She's been cleaning my place for a decade, drunk Marcus said in the video. Never late, never complains. Perfect servant. That's what you want, right? People who know their place, his friends laughed. Someone asked if he knew anything about her life. Who cares? Video, Marcus said. She cleans. I pay her. That's the relationship. I don't need to know about her family or her problems or whatever. That's not my job. The video ended. Marcus felt like he might throw up. The caption read, "This is the same Marcus Wellington who claims to care about his housekeeper's daughter." This is who he really is. A man who thinks his employees are beneath him. A man who doesn't see them as human beings. And now he's using a talented young girl to clean up his reputation. Don't be fooled. The video had 10 million views in 2 hours. Marcus's phone exploded. Calls, texts, emails. His PR team was in full panic mode. News organizations wanted statements. Activists were organizing protests. His company's stock was dropping fast. But worse than all of that was the sick feeling in his stomach. Because he remembered that dinner party. He remembered saying those things. He had been drunk and showing off, trying to impress his wealthy friends with how little he cared about ordinary people. It was true. All of it was true, his lawyer called. This is a disaster, Marcus. The worst possible timing. The federal investigators are going to use this. They're going to paint you as someone who abuses power, who doesn't care about people. This hurts us badly. Marcus barely heard him. He was thinking about Dorothy, about what she would think when she saw this video, about what Jasmine would think. He called Dorothy's number. It rang and rang. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. Marcus left his office and went straight to Dorothy's apartment. He had the address from her employment records. It was in the Bronx, a neighborhood he had never visited. The building was old, with paint peeling off the walls and a broken buzzer system. He walked up 4 flights of stairs. The hallway smelled like cooking food and old carpet. He found Dorothy's door and knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder. "Dorothy, it's Marcus Wellington. Please, I need to talk to you." The door opened a crack. Dorothy stood there, her face hard and cold. "Leave," she said. "I know you saw the video. I know how it looks. But please let me explain." "Explain what? That you're exactly who I thought you were? That you never respected me or saw me as a person? I already knew that, Mr. Wellington. I was drunk. I was being stupid. I was trying to impress people who don't matter. And that makes it better? That you only show your true self when you're drunk?" Marcus didn't have an answer. Behind Dorothy, Jasmine appeared. She looked at Marcus with something he had never seen in her face before. Anger. "You used me," Jasmine said, her voice shaking. "You used me to make yourself look good. You never cared about my music or my dreams. You just wanted to fix your reputation." "That's not true. When I heard you play, I was genuinely moved. I wanted to help." "You wanted to feel good about yourself," Jasmine shot back. "You wanted people to think you were generous and kind. But you're not. You're just like every other rich person who treats us like we don't matter. Jasmine, please. My mom has worked for you for 12 years. 12 years. Do you know anything about her? Do you know she has a college degree but had to drop out because she got pregnant with me? Do you know she wanted to be a teacher? Do you know she reads to kids at the library on her days off because she still loves education, even though she never got to finish?" Marcus looked at Dorothy. He hadn't known any of that. Jasmine continued, tears in her eyes now. "Do you know how hard she works? How many jobs she has? How she comes home so tired she can barely move? But she still helps me with my homework and makes sure I eat healthy, and encourages my music even though it reminds her of everything she couldn't give me." "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't mean anything," Dorothy said. "You're only sorry because you got caught. If that video never came out, you'd still think the same things. You'd still see me as someone who knows their place. You're right. I was wrong. I've been wrong about everything. But I want to change. I want to do better." Dorothy laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You want to change? Then start by being honest. Admit that you never cared about Jasmine. Admit that all your help, all your money, all your promises were about you. Not us, you." The words hit Marcus like punches. He stood there in the hallway, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his life. "I can't do this anymore," Dorothy said. "I quit. Find someone else to clean your penthouse and organize your life. I'm done being invisible to you." She started to close the door. "Wait," Marcus said desperately. "Please, what about Jasmine's education? I promised to pay for it." "Keep your money," Dorothy said coldly. "We don't need it. We don't need anything from you. But the schools, the applications, we'll figure it out ourselves, like we always have. Without you." The door closed. Marcus stood there alone in the hallway. From inside the apartment, he could hear voices. Dorothy comforting Jasmine. Jasmine crying he had done this. His words, his actions, his inability to see people as anything more than servants or projects or ways to make himself look good. He had broken something that couldn't be fixed with money. Marcus walked back down the stairs slowly. When he got outside, there were reporters waiting. They had followed him. They took pictures and shouted questions. "Mr. Wellington, do you have a comment on the video? Are you still planning to help Jasmine Thompson? Is it true you called your employees servants?" Marcus pushed through them without answering. He got in his car and told the driver to take him home. The next few days were the worst of Marcus's life. The video continued to spread. 40 million views. 50 million. Everyone was talking about it. His company's board called an emergency meeting. They asked him to step down as CEO temporarily while they dealt with the crisis. Marcus agreed without fighting. The federal investigation got worse. Prosecutors were now suggesting criminal charges might be appropriate. Marcus's lawyers said he could face serious fines, maybe even jail time, but none of that hurt as much as knowing what he had done to Dorothy and Jasmine. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. He sat in his penthouse, surrounded by his expensive things, and felt completely empty. Then 5 days after Dorothy quit, his daughter Elena showed up at his door. Marcus hadn't called her. He hadn't called anyone. He had just been sitting in the dark, drinking whiskey, trying to understand how his life had fallen apart so completely. Elena walked in without being invited. She looked at him sitting there in the same clothes he had worn for 2 days, unshaven and hollow-eyed. "You look terrible," she said. "I feel terrible." Elena sat down across from him. "I saw the video. Both videos. Everyone saw them. Jasmine and Dorothy are devastated. Not because they expected better from you, because they had started to hope you might actually be different. You broke that hope." Marcus nodded. "I know. Do you? Do you really understand what you did? I treated them like they weren't human, like they were just things that existed to serve me. Yes, and worse, you did it while pretending to care. If you had just been honestly indifferent, it would hurt less. But you made promises. You made them believe, and then they found out it was all fake." Marcus put his head in his hands. "I don't know how to fix this." "You can't, not really. Some things break and stay broken. Then what do I do?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. "You become a different person. Not because it will fix what you broke, but because it's the right thing to do. I don't know how." "Yes, you do. You just don't want to do it because it's hard and it hurts and it means admitting you've been wrong your whole life." Marcus looked up at his daughter, really looked at her for the first time in years. She had her mother's eyes and her own strength. "Why are you here?" he asked. "I thought you hated me." "I did hate you. For a long time. But Jasmine asked me to come." "She did?" "She said that anger and hatred just make everything worse. She said that people can change if they really want to. She said that even you might be able to change." Elena's voice got softer. "She has more grace than I do. More grace than you deserve. What do you want me to do?" "First, stop drinking. Right now. Put down that glass and don't touch another one." Marcus looked at the whiskey in his hand. He set it down. "Second, actually fix the problems in your company. Not to save your reputation, but because it's the right thing to do. Make real changes. Protect your employees' privacy." Marcus nodded. "Third and most important, leave Jasmine and Dorothy alone. Don't call them. Don't send money. Don't try to help. Just let them be. But I want to make things right. You can't make things right by being involved. You make things right by getting out of the way." Marcus felt tears in his eyes. "I've lost everything." "No, you've lost things. Money, reputation, power. You never had everything. You never had what matters." Elena stood up to leave. "Wait," Marcus said. "Are you still helping Jasmine?" "Yes, I'm teaching her music theory and technique. She's an incredible student. Faster learner than anyone I've ever met." "Will she get into a music school?" "I don't know, maybe. She's applying to Curtis Institute next month. Their standards are even higher than Juilliard, but she's getting better every day. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I'm genuinely sorry." Elena looked at him for a long moment. "Tell her yourself. But not now. Not for a long time. Maybe never. She doesn't need your apology. She needs you to actually change." After Elena left, Marcus sat alone in his penthouse. The city lights sparkled below him, beautiful and distant. He thought about everything he had lost. His company, his reputation, his pride. But he also thought about what Elena had said. That he had never really had everything. That things weren't what mattered. For the first time in his life, Marcus Wellington understood that he had been living wrong. Chasing wrong things, valuing wrong things, being the wrong kind of person. And for the first time in his life, he wanted to change. Not because it would save him. Not because it would fix his reputation or make people like him again. But because staying the same was a form of death. He stood up and walked to his piano. He sat down and put his fingers on the keys. And he began to practice. Not for show. Not to impress anyone. Just to learn. One note at a time. One day at a time. Starting over from the very beginning. 6 months passed. Marcus Wellington's life changed in ways he never expected. The federal investigation ended with a settlement. Marcus paid a $50 million fine and agreed to major changes in his company's privacy practices. He stepped down as CEO permanently. The board brought in someone new, someone younger and more in touch with modern ethics. Marcus didn't fight it. For the first time in his life, he accepted consequences without trying to escape them. His penthouse felt different now. Emptier, but in a good way. He had donated most of his art collection to museums. He sold the furniture that existed only to impress people. He kept the essentials and the things that actually meant something to him. The piano stayed. Marcus practiced every day. He hired a teacher, a patient woman named Mrs. Chen who didn't care that he was a billionaire. She treated him like any other adult beginner, correcting his mistakes, pushing him to improve. He was terrible at first. His fingers felt stiff and old. Simple songs took weeks to learn, but he kept practicing. 1 hour every morning, sometimes more. Music became his meditation, his therapy. When he played, he couldn't think about his failures or his regrets. He could only focus on the notes, the rhythm, the sound. He didn't see Dorothy or Jasmine. He kept his promise to Elena. He stayed away. It hurt, not knowing how they were doing, but he understood that his presence would only make things harder for them. He followed Jasmine's progress through Elena, who gave him occasional updates. Jasmine had applied to Curtis Institute of Music. She was still taking lessons from Elena and other teachers that Elena had found. She was working hard. Marcus wanted to help financially, but Elena told him no. Dorothy had made her position clear. They would do this on their own. Instead, Marcus did something else. He created a scholarship fund for talented music students from low-income families, but he did it anonymously. No press releases. No announcements. No credit. The fund paid for audition fees, applications, instruments, and lessons. It helped students who had talent but no money, just like Jasmine. Marcus put $5 million into the fund and hired people to run it properly. He never told anyone, not even Elena at first. It wasn't about looking good anymore. It was about actually doing good. His therapist, Dr. Roberts, noticed the change. "You seem different," she said during one of their weekly sessions. "Calmer." "I feel different," Marcus admitted. "I feel like I'm finally living instead of just existing." "What's changed?" "I stopped trying to control everything. I stopped measuring my worth by my bank account or what people think of me. I started actually seeing people." "Like who?" "Everyone. The doorman in my building. I know his name now. It's Robert. He has 2 kids. His daughter wants to be a veterinarian. The woman who makes my coffee every morning. Her name is Sarah. She's studying nursing at night school. I never knew these things before. I never asked." Dr. Roberts smiled. "That's significant progress. I wasted so many years," Marcus said quietly. "Being rich but empty. Having everything but nothing. You can't change the past. You can only change what you do now." Marcus nodded. He thought about Dorothy and Jasmine every day. He thought about the harm he had caused. But he was learning to live with it. Learning that some mistakes couldn't be erased, only learned from. In April, Elena called him. Her voice was excited. Jasmine got accepted to Curtis Institute. Marcus felt his chest tighten. She did? Full scholarship. They said her audition was one of the best they've ever seen. The director called her a once-in-a-generation talent. Marcus had to sit down. He felt tears in his eyes. "That's incredible. She did it herself, Dad, no favors. No connections. Just her talent and her hard work. I never doubted she could. Dorothy is so proud." She cried for an hour when they got the letter. Happy tears this time. Marcus wanted to send congratulations, to send flowers, to do something, but he knew he shouldn't. This wasn't his victory. It was Jasmine's. "Will you tell her I said congratulations?" Marcus asked. "Just that. Nothing more." "I will." After the call ended, Marcus sat at his piano. He played a simple piece he had been working on for weeks. It was called Clair de Lune by Debussy. He still made mistakes, still stumbled over certain passages, but it was getting better. When he finished, he sat quietly, his hands resting on the keys. He thought about Jasmine playing Rachmaninoff that first night. The joy on her face, the pure love of music. She had that love back now. She was going to study at one of the best music schools in the world. She was going to become the pianist she was meant to be, and Marcus had nothing to do with it. That fact should have hurt his pride. Instead, it made him feel something close to peace. In May, Marcus got an invitation in the mail. It was formal, printed on heavy cream paper. You are invited to attend a special performance by Jasmine Thompson at Carnegie Hall's Wild Recital Hall, part of the Emerging Artists Showcase. The date was June 15th, 3 weeks away. Marcus stared at the invitation for a long time. He didn't know if he should go. Dorothy probably didn't want him there. His presence might make them uncomfortable. He called Elena. "Did you know about this? The Carnegie Hall performance?" "Yes, Curtis sets it up for their incoming students. It's a big deal." "Did Jasmine send me this invitation?" Elena was quiet for a moment. "Dorothy did. She asked me for your address." "Why would she do that?" "I don't know. Maybe you should go and find out." Marcus agonized over the decision for days. He wanted to see Jasmine play. He wanted to support her, but he didn't want to intrude, didn't want to make the evening about him. Finally, he decided to go. But he would sit in the back. He would stay quiet. He would leave immediately after, without trying to talk to anyone. On June 15th, Marcus arrived at Carnegie Hall early. He wore a simple suit, nothing flashy. He bought a program at the entrance and found his seat in the very last row. The recital hall was smaller than the main Carnegie Hall stage, but it was still impressive. Red seats, ornate decorations, perfect acoustics. The room filled up quickly with people. Marcus saw Dorothy sitting in the third row with Elena beside her. His heart beat faster. He wanted to go say hello, but he stayed in his seat. The lights dimmed. A woman walked onto the stage and introduced the program. 5 young musicians would perform tonight, all incoming students at prestigious music schools. Jasmine was the last performer. Marcus watched the other 4 students play. They were all talented, all technically skilled. The audience applauded politely after each performance. Then Jasmine walked onto the stage. She looked different, older somehow. She wore a simple black dress and had her hair pulled back. She walked with confidence, not the nervous fear from that first night at Marcus's penthouse. She sat at the piano, adjusted the bench, and placed her hands on the keys. Then she began to play. The music was Rachmaninoff again, but a different piece. Piano Concerto No. 2. It was beautiful and complicated, full of emotion and technical difficulty. But that wasn't what made Marcus cry. What made him cry was watching Jasmine play with complete joy. She swayed with the music. She closed her eyes at certain moments. She was lost in it the same way she had been that first night, but without the fear, without the weight of poverty and impossible dreams crushing her. She was free to be the musician she was meant to be. The music built to a powerful climax, then softened into something tender and delicate. Jasmine's fingers moved across the keys like water, like breath. Every note was perfect. When she finished, there was a moment of absolute silence. Then the audience erupted in applause. People stood up. They cheered. Jasmine stood and bowed, a huge smile on her face. She looked out at the audience and found her mother. Dorothy was crying, clapping so hard her hands must have hurt. Marcus clapped too, tears running down his face. He wasn't crying for himself. He was crying for Jasmine, for her triumph, for Dorothy, who had worked so hard and never given up on her daughter, for the beauty of watching someone achieve their dreams. After the final bows, the audience began to leave. Marcus stayed in his seat, waiting for the crowd to thin out. He would slip out quietly, unseen. But before he could stand up, someone sat down next to him. It was Dorothy. Marcus froze. "Dorothy, I was just leaving. I didn't want to intrude." She looked at him. Her face was hard to read. "You came. I got the invitation. I couldn't stay away. But I understand if you're angry that I'm here." "I'm not angry." Dorothy's voice was quiet. "I invited you because Jasmine asked me to." "She did?" "She said that you were part of her story, even the hard parts. She said that holding on to anger was like drinking poison and hoping someone else gets sick. She wanted you to see what she accomplished." Marcus nodded, unable to speak. "She also wanted you to know that she did this herself. Without your money. Without your connections. Just her own talent and hard work. I know. And I'm so proud of her. I know I have no right to be proud, but I am." Dorothy looked at him for a long moment. "Elena tells me you've changed. I'm trying to. Every day. It doesn't undo what I did or who I was, but I'm trying. That's all anyone can do, I suppose." They sat in silence for a moment. The recital hall was almost empty now. "I quit cleaning houses," Dorothy said. "I went back to school. I'm finishing my degree. Education like I always wanted. I'm going to be a teacher." Marcus felt a surge of happiness. "That's wonderful." Really wonderful. I can afford it because Jasmine's scholarship covers everything, and because Elena has been helping me with costs. She's become like family to us. She told me, I'm glad you have each other. Dorothy stood up. I should go. Jasmine is waiting. Marcus stood too. Thank you for inviting me. It meant more than you know. Dorothy looked at him one more time. Jasmine was right about something else. She said that people can change if they really want to. I didn't believe her. But maybe she's right. She walked away before Marcus could respond. Marcus left Carnegie Hall and stepped out into the June evening. The air was warm. The city was alive with people and lights and movement. He didn't feel empty anymore. He didn't feel lost. He felt like he had witnessed something sacred. A young woman finding her voice, achieving her dreams despite every obstacle. And for once he had done the right thing. He had stayed out of the way. He had let her shine on her own. Marcus went home to his penthouse. It was quiet and simple now without all the excessive luxury. He made himself dinner, something he had learned to do in the past few months. He ate slowly, savoring it. After dinner, he sat at his piano. He played Clair de Lune all the way through without mistakes for the first time. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. When he finished, he sat there with his hands on the keys, thinking about the journey he had been on. From arrogance to humility, from emptiness to purpose, from seeing people as servants to seeing them as human beings. He thought about Dorothy, now pursuing her dream of teaching. About Jasmine on her way to Curtis Institute. About Elena, reconnecting with music in a healthy way by teaching others. They had all moved forward. They had all grown. And so had he. Marcus didn't know what his future held. Maybe he would start another company, something focused on helping people instead of just making money. Maybe he would teach piano to kids who couldn't afford lessons. Maybe he would just keep learning and growing, one day at a time. The specifics didn't matter. What mattered was that he was finally living with intention, with awareness, with compassion. He looked at his piano, this beautiful instrument that had started everything. It wasn't just a status symbol anymore. It was a teacher, a reminder, a bridge between who he had been and who he was becoming. Marcus played one more song before bed. Something simple, something gentle. The notes floated through his penthouse, no longer perfect and untouched, but finally alive with real music. Outside his windows, the city sparkled. Millions of people living their lives, struggling and dreaming and trying. Marcus was just one of them now. Not above them, not separate. Just human, and for the first time in his entire life that felt like enough. 3 months later, Marcus got a text message from an unknown number. He almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, but something made him open it. It was a photo. Jasmine standing in front of Curtis Institute on her first day. She wore a backpack and held a folder of sheet music. She was smiling, genuinely smiling, looking ready to take on the world. Below the photo was a message. Thank you for coming to my concert. Thank you for letting me do this on my own. You were right to step back. Sometimes the best help is no help at all. I hope you're well. Jasmine. Marcus stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed a response. I'm proud of you. Truly proud. Go change the world with your music. He added one more line. I'm learning to play piano. I'm terrible, but I practice every day. You inspired me. The response came quickly. Keep practicing. Music has a way of healing things we didn't know were broken. Marcus smiled. He saved the photo and the messages. Then he sat down at his piano and practiced. He was still terrible. He still made mistakes. But he was better than yesterday. And tomorrow, he would be better than today. That was all anyone could ask for. That was enough. The piano's notes filled the room, imperfect and honest and real. And in that moment, in that simple act of practice and growth, Marcus Wellington finally understood what it meant to be rich. It had nothing to do with money. It had everything to do with connection, purpose, and the courage to become better than you were. He played on into the evening, learning, growing, changing, one note at a time, one day at a time, finally truly alive.